Gym employees, what's your best roid rage / gym freakout story? Story 1. There was this guy at the YMCA I lifted at in high school who was crazy as all hell. The first time I saw him, he strolled through the door, held his arms out wide and announced, "The Terminator is here." This one time, he was using one bench and I walked up to the one next to him, but there were plates on it. I turned and asked, "Is someone using this?" "I don't know, man," he said, "but frick them. They left. It's your bench." So I did my bench presses. I mean, I wouldn't say that's a freak out story, to be honest, but it's actually quite supportive. Like, it's true. If they left, it is your bench. And he's got your back. This guy seems like he'd be a nice friend. Story 2. I saw a guy get mad at his spotter for jumping in to help him when he was doing bench press to failure. He was screaming, "You ruined my whole set. You ruined my whole set." The guy then walked over to the wall, put both hands on the wall and just shrieked like, then stormed to the locker room. Everyone literally stopped what they were doing to watch this unfold. Oh dear, now this guy sounds like a spoilt brat, doesn't he? You need to lay off the roids, hun, because you are getting livid. That's the whole point of a spotter, to help you when you're failing. Okay, maybe he got touchy because he was failing the lift. Do you know what I mean? Maybe he was a bit, disappointed in himself and just sort of kicked off. That's my only excuse for this guy. Other than that, he sounds like a douche who's roided out his head. Story 3. I did work in a gym, but this is actually a story from when I was a member of a different gym. There was this dude that my friends and I called the hero. He wore an American flag tank top, American flag shorts, white Converse, and an American flag bandana. The dude was the most patriotic person I've ever seen. The dude was pretty average in terms of strength, would usually do like 135 on bench in a 5x5 set. However, he touted himself as this incredible powerlifter and was always hitting on girls in the gym talking about his latest competition. Every rep, no matter the exercise, no matter the weight, he'd shout, "Toot!" at the top of every rep. It was hilarious. You couldn't not laugh because it was so loud. The best part was, he was actually like a super cool dude, always there for a spot and would give high fives to people once they finished their sets. He also never took off his weightlifting belt or wrist wraps. Miss that guy sometimes. Oh, yeah, but that's kind of sweet. Like, obviously, he's really proud. He's proud of the hard work that he's putting into the gym, and that is a good thing. He should be proud. He strikes me as the kind of guy that's wearing his wrist wraps and weightlifting belt to bed. He's there just fully in his gym gear, like going to sleep. He's that kind of bloke, isn't he? I mean, you've got to love them. You really have got to love them. They're great motivators, these kind of people. Story 4. This guy was in the locker room and went to get a drink from the drinking fountain. He didn't notice that someone, my buddy, didn't turn the fountain's nozzle back after filling his water bottle, and this guy got his shoes wet because of it. So he starts on a tangent. "Oh, this is freaking great. I was late for work. Car had a flat tyre. Forgot my energy drink. Had to skip lunch. I ain't had a carb all day." He's known as Carb Guy. Story 5. I worked at a gym as the manager of the child centre. It wasn't a roid rage, but I had to suspend a very pregnant woman's child for biting other children to the point that they bled. She was fuming and screamed at me saying there was no proof, except she didn't realise we kept records of previous incidents that she signed, and then complained to my boss telling her that I called her son a menace. Except, who says that anymore? The entire time she was complaining her child was hitting her and also screaming. Yeah, she cancelled her membership and no one was sad. Story 6. About a year ago, we had 2 guys that were bodybuilders that were always here training for an event that definitely seemed enhanced. About 2 weeks before the competition, the one guy was maxing out on biceps and tore the distal biceps tendon, and it was very obvious. He was so fuming. He got up and slammed the other weight to the floor, and the other guy had to hold him back as he destroyed a water station / jug and started punching a wall and otherwise just going on a fricking rampage. The other guy eventually rode him outside and calmed him down after 15 to 20 minutes. Wow, that is one angry dude. That's actually really funny. You can imagine the guy actually riding him outside like this huge, this humongous bull-like human, just raging, kicking, punching, scratching, and this small guy just on his shoulders riding him out of the gym. That's funny. That's a funny image. But I'm guessing the roids are making him turn, right? Because I've heard that steroids can make you genuinely quite the angry person. Not for me, blokes. Not for me. If you're on roids and you come near me, I'm stealing your roids and kicking you out my house. All right? Story 7. I don't know if this counts, but a big dude, like 259 to 300 pounds, was going for a massive bench press. Didn't count how many plates, just know it was over 6 on each side. He was yelling all the way up to his max. Everyone is obviously looking at this point. Then he goes for the final one and just poos himself all over the bench. Doesn't finish the rep and needs 2 spotters. He gets up and he's so angry that he didn't finish and that people were watching that he just yells, "What? What?" with poo running down his legs and just started screaming as he goes back to the locker room. All the while walking through the whole gym. Damn, the dude was smelly. Oh no, that poor bloke. He pushed himself a bit too hard, didn't he? To be honest, I'm not surprised he pooed himself. When I see these videos online, right, of these men or women just push, like literally pushing so hard, right? Like that the veins in their face and arms are just literally sticking out of their skin. They couldn't be sticking out anymore. I'm not surprised they poo themselves. They are straining like frick. They really are. That doesn't surprise me. That can't be the first time that's happened either. Story 8. We had this one guy who was pretty, legit crazy. All the employees got a pretty weird vibe from him when he signed up, and he'd been kicked out from 3 other gyms in our town. Anyway, he never quite freaked out, but he did a lot of weird stuff. He screamed at people for talking for too long between their sets because it disturbed his zen. He complained to us in the staff that all women there distracted him from proper lifting because they wore too tight clothes and tried to get us to change that. He once screamed at me while I was working out because I didn't re-rack my weights when I went to refill my water bottle, yet never once re-racked a single weight. Just by walking into the gym, you could tell that he'd been there earlier. He got upset with one of our senior members who's a champion in senior natural bodybuilding at 78 years because he wasn't as big as he was, being 27 and on roids. Stood around naked in the changing room naked, while posing in front of the mirror mumbling encouraging things to himself. After a while, we had to suspend his membership because he harassed all the members so much that our regulars wanted to switch gyms. Yeah, kind of a wiener. Great toning and symmetrical muscles, though. That bloke sounds like a classic roid head, doesn't he? Do you know what I mean by classic roid head, gang? It's like those blokes that just walk around like fully roided out their minds. Just big, huge blokes, causing havoc, doing what they want, making up their own rules. Yeah, that's him. Story 9. Oh, this story is perfect. So this occurred at the Dartmouth gym back around 2013. I'm really hoping someone in this thread was also there. For context, there was this jerk of a gym manager, right, who would always come over and yell at you for slamming weights, even if you weren't actually slamming them. I know slamming weights is really annoying, so I'm not defending it, but you have to believe me that this guy had a hair trigger and loved to yell, even when there really wasn't any weight dropping going on. Now, this is where the stars aligned. There was this roided up undergrad who I'd seen before and knew he loved to drop weights. He was about 5'8", but all unnatural muscle. I knew the angry manager was at the front desk, so I thought, oh, this might get good. Sure enough, the roider starts doing cleans and dropping the weights about as loud as you can, and immediately the manager storms over, redder than a tomato and looking like he was about to burst. What followed was just unintelligible screaming from both of them, only about 1 inch from each other. Sort of like this, but angrier. It was so much fun to watch, the whole gym stopped to watch. The best part though, and the whole reason I'm telling this story, was once the manager was going off to call security. I'm actually surprised they didn't fight since there was some shoving, which would have been funny since the manager looked about 30 years older than the roider. The roider screamed this line. Yeah, I get how it is. The strongest guy at the gym is getting kicked out for being too frickin' strong. Frick you, I'm leaving. He was completely serious in saying that too and stormed off. Oh man, I loved it. Story 10. This one guy at my gym looked like Michael Douglas in Falling Down. Had an awesome 1,000-yard stare and always looked like he was insanely angry. Carried around an old alarm clock to time his lifts, like an old analog clock with the bells on top. One day he gets angry at something. Full on jumps in the air and roundhouse kicks the paper towel dispenser off the wall in the middle of a crowded gym. He was subsequently asked to leave. While on the way out, he took out his further anger on another paper towel dispenser, straight up Patrick Swayze style, throat ripping it off the wall. Roadhouse style. Okay, at this point, I'm just thinking that these people have so much anger built up in their veins. Like you can literally see it running through their veins, right? The anger. That they're just taking it out on absolutely anything they can find. It also sounds like they're getting slightly overly sensitive to things as well. Maybe steroids can do that. Maybe steroids make you feel a bit touchy, and sensitive maybe. I'm not sure, but it kind of sounds that way because there is no reason, is there, to get in a fight with a paper towel dispenser, is there? Because you're going to win, all right? That's why you're picking a fight with it, isn't it? Because you know you're going to win. Story 11. Not necessarily my best one, but pretty good. I was overseeing one of my facilities when this happened. There's a class going on, and this older gentleman starts walking through the middle of the classroom. The instructor politely tells the gentleman that there's a class going on. Duh. But if he needs something from the room, she'll be glad to get it for him. He flips his rubbish, right, and starts calling her every name in the book. Magically, the general manager disappears around the same time, so I get involved. I walk over and calmly tell the gentleman that there's no need for such language. At that point, he starts calling me every name in the book. I tell him his membership is now cancelled, leave or I'm calling the police. He then throws a hissy fit, starts jumping on the rowing machines like a child and knocking over the weight trees. Then he proceeds to pick up some of the barbells and throw one at the instructor and then try to swing one at me. The guy must have been close to 80, so it wasn't hard to dodge. At this point, a buddy of his comes over, grabs him and takes him to the locker room so we don't call the cops, and then he leaves. Throwing and swinging barbells? Jeez! This old man needs a nap, I think, because he has fully lost his mind. That could cause serious damage. Barbells? Crikey, soldier. Story 12. Not an employee, but one time I was doing cardio, and in the cardio room there's a small weightlifting area with a power rack and some dumbbells. There's also a large strength gym in my gym. My university has a huge gym, with plenty of power racks and benches and weights. So I don't really understand why they put a power rack in the cardio room. So this guy comes in, right, and he's looking pretty stocky and very serious. He gets on the Olympic lifting deadlift platform attached to the power rack and starts doing his 1 rep max, 225 pounds, for at least 30 minutes with short rests, all the while grunting and yelling and making a huge scene as if he's fricking Arnold himself. During his rests, he flexes in the mirror and does bodybuilding poses. Keep in mind that this is the cardio room and he's grunting, and that's literally the only sound other than the pop music playing on the speakers. Even if he went to the strength gym, he would have looked like a fool though. Story 13. At 24-hour fitness in the middle of the night, every night there was an older gentleman who we used to call Captain B. He was this bad bum guy who'd done everything in his past life and was suffering through an autoimmune disease that was destroying the cartilage, especially in the spinal column. And apparently the way to slow down the process of deterioration was to exercise. This dude just loved to go around and frick with all the college students who would stare at themselves in the mirror and just do bicep curls all day. One day, he rubbish talks the biggest dude in the entire gym I'd ever seen, 6'7" and beyond jacked, about how little he can lift. Steroid dude lost his mind, so Captain B challenged him to a dip competition for $100. I watched both of them do 80 straight dips until the roids guy started to falter. Then he fell to the ground. Captain B stared him down and did 10 more dips, got off and got his money. The guy looked destroyed, like his purpose in life was meaningless. He lost his mind and ran out of the gym. I want to say he cried, but I'll sadly never know. He most definitely cried. You can just tell. He ran out of there crying. He needed mummy. Definitely. Never judge a book by its cover, guys, okay? This is proof here. Never judge a book by its cover, because he got fully done over. Story 14. I worked front desk at a gym and I always had a volunteer with me. My volunteer was a lovely 67-year-old man. It was time to close the gym, and the volunteer would go around telling the members that we were closing in 15 minutes and to leave the floor now if they were taking a shower at the gym, so they would be out by closing. One guy on the machines refused to leave the floor, even at the time of closing, so my volunteer told him he had to go now. Roided guy took issue with being told it was time to leave and started yelling at my senior volunteer. I heard the commotion and looked up to see the roided guy following my volunteer. They were both screaming at each other. The roided guy asked if he wanted to take this outside. My volunteer yelled back that he would love to take this outside. Thankfully, the gym manager stepped in and split them up before anything happened, and the roid guy left. You can bet that young roided out guy would have been regretting the decision to take it outside if they actually went out there, due to the fact that the unassuming little old guy was a former Marine who fought in Nam. Love that volunteer. One of the best friends I could ever ask for. Story 15. When I was about 16, 25 years ago now, I was replacing a bar in the rack, and there were two guys having a chat there. After replacing the weight, I turned and smiled and did what I thought was a friendly, joking fist pump. Well, one of the juice monkeys took it the wrong way and grabbed me by the throat, lifted me up and slammed me into the wall and demanded to know what the hell my problem was. That was uncool. That's another really lame thing, isn't it? Like, I'm not saying this guy was necessarily smaller than the roided up guy, but I feel like they would just pick a fight with someone who they don't think would stand a chance. Do you know what I mean? And I think that is, I just don't rate that at all. Fighting is not cool. It's actually really gross. But like these roided men just think it's so cool that they can hit someone. Do you know what I mean? Like, no, you losers. And guys, I'm not like targeting everyone on roids here because some of them don't even react, and they're absolutely sound. But some of them are next level roid heads. Story 16. I had a buddy ask if he could start lifting with me. A few days in, I'm spotting him and giving him the typical male encouragement. You got this, dude. Don't be a vagina. You got it. He slammed down the weights and cried. When someone has low self-esteem, that doesn't help. He saw me and my other buddy spotting each other saying the same rubbish to each other. I have no idea why he took it so seriously. Story 17. Not a gym employee, but my husband is huge into bodybuilding, and I enjoy fitness myself. He made a new friend at the gym we switched to. This guy was really unstable, would always talk rubbish to employees, and almost always wanted to fight someone. A week after not seeing this guy, we heard he got kicked out for picking up a flat bench, throwing it across the room and trying to fight some guy that accidentally almost tripped him. Another time, he was supposed to work out with my husband and completely freaked the frick out because my husband wouldn't change our schedule around because he wanted to meet earlier than planned. Edit. This guy was at least 6 feet tall and really muscular. One of his thighs was the size of my torso. See? Another guy being sensitive, being overly sensitive. I think steroids must do that. I really do. I think they must make men a bit touchy. Am I right, guys? Can someone please tell me? Is that a thing? Story 18. Not an employee. I was doing cardio on a stationary bike at night when this happens. This guy's using presumably the preacher curl machine upstairs and is yelling and screaming like he got his arm cut off during childbirth for every lift. No one could see him from downstairs. Somehow there was no one else upstairs, but everyone was aware of him. People started yelling and berating the guy to calm the frick down. Then an employee went up to set things straight. He gets upstairs, the clanging of weights and yelling stops, and the employee comes down the stairs looking confused. From some eavesdropping, the employee said that there was no one upstairs when he went up. No one came down the stairs before he went up either. Gaines' ghost lifting from the crypt has become a legend now. Okay, what on earth? That is actually terrifying. There actually is a Gaines' ghost. Has anyone else ever experienced a Gaines' ghost in their gym? Story 19. I don't work at a gym, but this just might be the only platform I'll ever have to tell this story. I worked in a record store and a woman came in asking me if we had the Rocky soundtrack on CD. I went to the soundtrack section and found one used copy for $4.99. She grabbed it from my hands and got a look in her eyes as she said, "Thank God you have this. My husband uses Eye of the Tiger as his pump-up song when he lifts weights. But I got really mad at him yesterday for being a dumb bum and I ripped his entire CD player system away from the wall and threw it out into the backyard. I didn't know that this Rocky CD was in there. And now it won't turn on to eject the CD. I'm so thankful you have this." That lady was kind of really awesome. Story 20. Not roid rage, but I think this applies. There was a guy who openly admitted to taking roids, and he also sold them. He was in his 30s, not huge, but pretty big, and owned his own landscaping business. He always talked to everyone in the gym, so just about everyone knew him. One day while working out, his face appeared on the local news channel the gym played, and he was arrested for selling steroids. He went to jail and came back a few months later like nothing had happened. Story 21. Late to the game, but a guy I knew from high school, pretty eccentric dude, showed up to the gym one day using a guest pass. He was wearing high-cut jean shorts, a headband, and had a giant pair of work boots. He proceeded to get on the treadmill, crank it up to 10 miles per hour, and start to sprint while yelling and clapping his hands. Now, mind you, the work boots were heavy duty, and in conjunction with a 10 miles per hour setting, it was making the most horrifically loud banging noise you could possibly imagine. Naturally, everyone in the entire place stopped to see what the frick was happening. This went on for about 30 seconds until he could no longer maintain the 10 miles per hour setting, and he proceeded to get thrown off the treadmill, somersaulted backwards about 15 feet until he cannonballed into the sheetrock where he broke through the wall. It was the most surreal thing I've ever seen. He got up off the ground, pumped his fist in the air, had the courtesy and wherewithal to turn off the treadmill, and then high-fived someone and walked out. I have not seen Jared since. That was 10 years ago. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos coming daily.